Started, I want to welcome everyone to tonight's webinar. Is your child at grade level? And that is a question we are all asking ourselves with the current COVID situation and everything that's going on nowadays at schools. My name is Michael McCurdy. I'm co-founder of testingmom.com. I have Karen Quinn, the Testing Mom, on tonight. Hey, Karen.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to see you tonight.
Yeah, we have people from all over the country, including Canada. So even north, our friends to the north. So welcome, everyone. I know you're taking time out of your busy schedule with your family. But you know what? I was talking to Karen earlier, and we just realized this is such a hot topic right now. We've been inundated with questions like this over the last, couple of months, ever since August. Parents wondering, is my child at grade level? My child didn't go to school at all in the spring due to COVID. It was all virtual. Some kids didn't even do anything for the last 3 or 4 months of school. And now we've started school again. Many of you are doing virtual school. Some of you are doing hybrid. Some of you are doing in person. And with everything that's going on, we all have to remember that the teachers, they're doing their best, but giving your child a grade level assessment probably is not currently on their top 10 list. They're really trying to make sure the classroom is safe, that they're trying to get everything organized in this new normal environment at school. So we have to be supportive of that, but also as parents, we're all concerned that my child, what has COVID what has been the impact of COVID on my child's education, especially from last spring and starting this fall? So Karen's going to be talking about that. We'll get all to your Q&A at the end. If you do have a question, just click on the Q&A box at the bottom of Zoom, and Karen will answer those Q&A questions. And then we also have a special offer tonight, so you want to make sure you stay for that as well. So Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know Karen has spent a ton of time on this presentation, and I know everyone will find it very, very informative. And we will be asking poll questions throughout this presentation to give you some insights to maybe what other parents are seeing in their situation, and we'll be doing polling. So hey, Karen.
Hi, all right. So welcome, everybody, and we're going to get started. And first of all, before I even get into this presentation, I wanted to start by essentially acknowledging all of you for everything you are doing right now, for all that you're juggling. This is a tough situation for all of us, and we all face different circumstances, but the one thing that I think is true for everyone is that it is challenging for everyone right now. So, and you're doing all of the things that you're doing your job, you're taking care of your kids, you're getting them through school, you've got so much on your plate, and whatever you're doing, I just want you to know I think you're doing great, and just pat yourself on the back because you're doing fantastic. So I've talked to many of you, so I know that. Hang in there. This too shall pass, right? Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about what the COVID slide is. We're going to talk about the impact of learning gaps. We will talk about how schools are going to address learning slide this year, and really, most importantly, what you can do to help your child if they are experiencing some learning gaps, or even if you just want to make sure they stay on grade level or potentially even get ahead. What kinds of things can you be doing? So we'll talk about that. So first of all, what I wanted to first address is just the whole idea of, learning loss. And this happens every year, every summer. This is a very common thing. If you've been a Testing Mom member for a while, we always talk about the summer slide. It's very well documented, researched that over the course of the summer, if kids are not engaged in educational activities, they're going to lose about 2 months of their reading skills that they acquired in the school year before summer. They're going to lose 2.6 months of math skills that they had acquired during the school year. Just over the course of the summer. This is what tends to happen unless your child is actively doing reading and math activities. And what happens is when kids get back into the classroom, if the class moves ahead with new materials, many of them are going to be missing what they needed to know to move forward because they would have forgotten it. And these gaps in their understanding may never get resolved. So what happens is these learning gaps from just the summer learning loss of 3 months, they compound over time. So that's why it's so important over the course of the summer. You want your child reading and you want your child doing some math and that sort of thing. When we talk about just COVID slide, what we're talking about is the fact that kids have been out of school now for about 6 months instead of just 3 months. And NWEA, which you may know, they're the people who put out the MAP test. They did research and they believe that, based on the 6 months of not being in the classroom, students are just likely to start the school year having lost 30% of their reading gains from last year and over 50% of their math gains from last year. And they expect the losses to be highest among elementary age students, especially students in the 4th and 5th grade. And that's just because that's the time when there's just kind of the fastest academic growth that takes place during those years. There's another study that's out there now that talks about the fact that 68% of parents are distressed about their kids falling behind due to COVID, and 63% are very concerned that COVID will damage their child's educational progress for over a year. So that's what we're talking about here, what's happening, what we expect to have happen now that kids are back in school. And so what do we mean when we talk about learning gaps? What exactly are we talking about? Well, a learning gap is the difference between what a student is expected to have learned by a certain grade and what they've actually learned. So for example, if you have a child who is reading below grade level, and then they have a learning gap in reading, okay? Or their reading comprehension skills are not exactly where they need to be. And what happens is learning gaps do compound over time, just like the summer learning gaps we talked about. So you may have heard this before, but in grades kindergarten to 2nd grade, children learn to read, but from grade 3 on, they read to learn. So if your child is not a very strong reader going into 3rd grade, then they are going to struggle with learning what they're reading. So you really want to make sure that your child goes into 3rd grade with very, very strong reading skills, if possible. And then math is taught sequentially, right? And so new math concepts build on what you were working on before. So if your child misses an important step along the way, they're going to struggle with the new math concepts that they're getting. So how do you know if your child has a learning gap? Well, there's a number of things you can do. First of all, you can do a diagnostic assessment and see what they understand and what they don't understand. You can talk to your child's teacher. Now this year is, we're very early into the class, so the teacher may or may not know by now if your child has any learning gaps, if they haven't done a diagnostic. But the other thing you can do is you can look for signals that your child may be struggling in school. And what are these signals? Okay, the signals are things like maybe poor grades in a particular subject, low test scores if they have like tests in math or reading or different subjects. Maybe your child avoids reading or avoids doing math or any subject that they struggle with. They just don't want to do it. If you have a child who says, I hate math or I hate school, they start to say things like that, that is an indicator that something's going on, obviously, at school that isn't working for your child. And, last year, as a matter of fact, I remember we had a little boy, a 5th grader, who hated math. And that's what he said, I hate it. And so his parents came to us. He was actually going to a very good school. He was making good grades in his other classes. He just wasn't doing well in math. So we assessed him, and what we realized is that he had really not mastered some very fundamental concepts, literally going back to second grade. So we checked all his years, and we found some big holes in his knowledge. And we spent time with him sort of patching up those holes, teaching him, making sure he understood the concepts that he was missing. And in fact, we're still tutoring him now. He's totally caught up, but he likes math so much, he thinks it's fun now. So that's good. So it can be done, it can be fixed. But the learning gap, but the signal from him was just he kept saying, I hate math, right? Another signal might be that the child is disruptive in class, or the child is very quiet, hardly speaks in class. That's another signal. And that was actually my daughter, who had learning disabilities and some learning issues. She was very quiet, and I literally did not get notified or of that this was even going on until she was almost in 5th grade. The other thing is, if you have a child with a low confidence level or just some anxiety that you see, you know, they don't want to go to school, they don't sleep well, maybe they have meltdowns, just signs of anxiety would be another indicator that the child is struggling in school. So we'll talk about how your school is going to address these learning gaps. And Michael already alluded to some of the difficulties that the teachers are going to be facing this year. You know, the fact that they're going to bring in to any given classroom children who all their circumstances have been different. You know, some kids, the parents had to go out to work. They were essential workers. There wasn't really anyone to help them learn or make sure they were doing what they needed to do for school. Or maybe they didn't have good internet, or they didn't have good, you know, a computer. I mean, there's so many reasons and so many different circumstances that everyone has been facing over the last few months, which it's going to result in classrooms with many different ability levels within them. And so what the teacher's going to have to do is help all the kids catch up, while at the same time, and remember, they might have forgotten half of what they learned last year, but at the same time, they're supposed to teach them the next grade's standards. So it's going to be very difficult for teachers this year. And many of them are going to be doing it online. The online classrooms might be very big, and that's not the ideal way to be teaching. So as Michael said, it is going to be very, very challenging for teachers this year. However, one of the first things that schools always do when school starts in September, and what I hope many schools are doing, and you'll have to find out if your school is doing this, is we hope they're giving a baseline assessment just as soon as they can. And when we talk about baseline assessments, you might have heard of MAP tests. You might have heard of iReady assessments. So we're hoping that they are giving those. Probably some are and some are not, but that's something you're going to want to find out. And if they are doing baseline testing, then you want to find out what your child's scores are as soon as you can. And that way, you can make sure that they're going to be catching up where they need to. The other thing I want to tell you to focus on, if your child is in an online learning environment or a hybrid learning environment, be sure that you are watching them while they're at school, and make sure that they're actually learning and paying attention, okay? Because it's very easy for kids to lose focus in the online environment. And it's, you know, and if you're not watching, you don't know what they're doing. So you may not have to always watch, but at the beginning especially, watch, make sure they're focused, listening, they're not changing their virtual backgrounds all the time. You know, just really hone in on that. And one thing I was going to say is a good way to help them pay attention would be by stationing yourself nearby. Okay, so Even if you're doing your own work and your kids are doing schoolwork, if you are within a distance where you can see them and they think you're watching them, then first of all, younger kids may actually need you to help them from time to time with the technology, whatever. But older kids, especially, if they think nobody's looking, they're going to do other things during class, or many of them will. I don't know if maybe your kids are different, but many of the parents I've been talking to have been telling me that they've had to keep their kids close by just for that reason, that they want them to feel like they're being observed by their parents, and that will help. So observe them, and if you see that they're not focused, you may need to step in and help them out. Okay, but the question really is, knowing that the teachers are going to have a hard time, what can you do to just make sure that your child at least is getting what they need? So what kinds of things can you do? So we're going to start, I think there's 5 very important things, and these are the things I'm going to talk about. One is just, you know, and I know this is true for you guys because you're here tonight, but make sure that education is a key family value. You want to embrace a growth mindset. I'm going to talk to you about that. You want to support the learning and growth in your child's personal areas of interest, just because this is going to transfer to growth in school, and we'll talk about that. And then identify your child's learning challenges and offer them help in terms of if they do have learning gaps, offer help to close those gaps. Okay? So the first area is just, let me just move this. Make education a key family value. And so it's so important to instill in your child from a very young age, you know, in our family, learning, striving, and education matter. So just make sure that you really talk about that a lot. And you're going to need to talk about it a lot, because one of the things with kids is they have to hear things a lot before it sinks in. And that's why sometimes learning, it's hard for them to learn, because they have to hear it, they have to see it, they have to do it. But to really get this idea across, you want to talk about it all the time. In my family, when I was growing up, we had a belief system that you have to make something of yourself, and the way you're going to make something of yourself is through education. And you have your own family belief system. So whatever that is, you want to talk about that with your child as often as you can, and talk about your own education and how hard you worked and what your goals were, that sort of thing. Set the bar high for your child, even when things are difficult. You don't want to let them off the hook, because you want to teach them that even when things are hard, you try, you work at it, you persist, that kind of thing. And the other thing you can do is you can set learning expectations for your child. So you can say, you know, okay, you know, I expect you to get your homework done every night. I expect you to study for tests, or whatever your expectations are, you want to set those expectations. And then the other thing you want to do is make sure that you've set up a workspace, schedules, and routines that really support the expectations you have, whether it's like practice your piano for 15 minutes every day, or do your math, practice math 30 minutes a day, 5 days, whatever it is. You set those expectations and you make it possible for your child to do that. And then the other thing I recommend is just modeling this yourself. So you might set up a family reading time where everyone in the family every night is seen reading, you know. I put this up here because this is one of my parents who I was speaking with today, and she was saying that, you know, she wants her kids reading every day. So she set up a chart with 100 books for them to read, and every day they're supposed to read a book. And they can cross the number off when they read the book, and so they're trying to get, each one is trying to get to 100. She has 3 kids. And she said that they're so competitive with each other that they're either trying to beat each other or at least keep up with each other. So they're all reading. So this is how she instituted reading time in her family. But, you know, you can take your kids to the library. You can, you know, learn something new as a family. And then the other thing is just make sure that your child sees you working hard and achieving. So that's very, very important. You know, I personally have always been a serial entrepreneur. And I never thought my kids were even paying attention to the fact that that's what I was, and that's what I always was doing. I was always trying to achieve and accomplish things. I found out, I realized that, you know, my daughter, who had a lot of learning disabilities, after she finally got out of school, she decided she would write a movie, which she did, and she raised the money for it. She produced it. She acted in it. She put the team together. She did the whole project on her own. And I realized that she had just kind of been watching mom, because I was always trying things like writing a book or starting a business. And I think it just sunk into her. So even though you don't necessarily think your kids are watching you or listening to you, I promise you they are. So model this yourself. It's very important. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the growth mindset by Carol. It's a theory of Carol Dweck, and you may have heard of it. And where it started was she did some research in the 90s. She was challenging the belief that people are born smart, that intelligence is actually fixed almost at birth. And this led to her theory of growth mindset. And what she did was she took two evenly matched groups of elementary school students, and she gave them both the same IQ test. And one group was told that they did well and they must have worked really hard to get the result. The other group was told that they did well and they must be very smart to have gotten the result. Over time, what she found was that the people in the group that were praised for being smart were much more likely to fall apart when they were faced with challenges. They gave up more easily. They didn't want to try when things got hard or when they didn't think they could do something, and their confidence levels were lower. But the group that was praised for working hard, this group was much more likely to seek out challenges. They would persist when things got difficult, and they handled their setbacks more easily. What she did was she developed this theory of a fixed versus a growth mindset. And she said that people with a fixed mindset believe that your ability is innate and it's static. And people with a fixed mindset try to avoid failure, which means they don't try. And that's because they think if I can't do something well, then that just says something very bad about who I am, about me. Whereas those with a growth mindset believe that success is based on working hard and learning and taking on challenges. They've learned that, and that's their mindset. So they don't mind making a mistake or failing at something because they know that they can keep working at it and get better. So what you want to do is literally explicitly teach this to your child, that your abilities are going to improve with hard work. Just teach that, say it, talk about it, and eventually it will sink in eventually to your child. Okay. Now, here's another way you can explain this idea. And remember, I was talking about how children need to see things or hear things many, many times before it really sinks in. So explaining this in some different ways will really help kids get it, I think. And you can show them a picture like this picture or a picture like it. And it's the whole, the iceberg illusion, which is success is just like an iceberg. You know, we just see a little piece on top. And that's the successful person being successful, being a great mathematician or a great singer or whatever. But the thing is, none of us get to see what it took for that person to get there. We don't see their hard work. We don't see their discipline. We don't see that they made mistakes and failed along the way, but they kept going. So this is something to teach your child. It's another way to explain this concept, and another way to sort of guide them towards doing the hard work, even when things get get difficult, which they're going to need to do if there's been some learning loss. Now, Carol Dweck tells us not to praise a person's intelligence, as that puts kids into a fixed mindset, and they're going to not want to be challenged when you do that, because they don't want to look dumb, they don't want to make mistakes, and so this is going to affect their motivation. So if you praise kids like this, oh, you're so smart, or oh, that you got an A, we're going to go out and celebrate, or I'm so proud of you for doing so well on your tests, that's great. Oh, this is the best essay I've ever written. Things like this are the ways you don't want to praise your kids, because they're going to think they have to live up to this almost impossible standard by not doing things where they're not so good, and they're not going to make that A, or they're not going to write the best essay. So that's not how we want to praise kids. What we want to do is praise them more along these lines, which are, great effort. You must have worked really hard to make that happen. Or, oh, I love the way you stuck to this, and now you really understand it. Or you practice that so much, and look how much you've improved. So, you can talk about it more almost as, you worked hard, and it shows. And if your child says something like, I can't do that, or I'm not good at that, you can say, well, you can't do that yet, but let's work on it until you can do it. Or you may not be good at it now, but you will be if you work on it. So this is the kind of praise we want to give our kids. This is the kind of praise that will motivate them to work hard. And what I'm talking about does not just apply to school challenges. The growth mindset applies everywhere. Even if your child wants to be good at something like a sport, or something they're really super interested in, they have a passion, you can remind them how hard they work to get good at the thing that they love to do. Like, oh, you're good at, a child's a good guitar player, but at the beginning they struggled and they learned, but they practiced, they got better. Well, if you practice your fractions the same way, you'll be just as natural at those as you are at being a guitarist. So I really encourage you to help your child find their talents and their interests, whatever they are, and talk to them about, okay, well, what skills do you need to master to get good at that, and help them find a way to master those skills, maybe set some goals along the way, so they can see themselves reaching those goals. That's going to help them build their confidence. And it'll teach them that if they practice, they will improve. And then it's something you can remind them of when it comes to school. And this is something this kind of came up for me today, and I just wanted to share this with you. This was, I don't know if you know who Nick Cordera is, but he's a wonderful actor, a Broadway actor, and I was following him. He got very sick during COVID. He died. It was very tragic, and he's only 41 years old. And I watched his memorial myself online. They had it, and I was just so impressed by what a hard worker he was to accomplish his goals, and also just what a beloved man he was. It was just the memorial it's online, it's amazing. And anyway, so I was really moved by what happened to him and his family. And so today there was an article in the paper about his wife, Amanda Klutz, and they asked her, what do you want your son to know about Nick? And what she said was, I want our son to be curious, because Nick was very curious. And I want him to know that Nick struggled to make his dreams come true, and he never quit. I want him to know that his dad was a hard worker. And I read that and I thought, oh God. And I wanted to share that today, because I really do feel that this is probably the best legacy we can give our children. If we can teach them, you know, that with hard work and persistence, we can make the things happen that we want to make happen to give ourselves a good life. And that's really, you know, the key to creating a great life. And I was just so moved by what she said that was important to her. So I wanted to share that with you. Because I want my children to be this way. I want them to know that they can make their dreams come true if they work hard. So, okay, so we're going to get back to this year's learning challenges at school. Okay, so the first thing to do is to identify the challenges. What you want to find out is, have they given your child a baseline diagnostic at school yet? You know, like we said, we don't know if they're going to be, you know, when they're going to be doing that at your child's school, or if they're going to be doing that, but hopefully they will. And if they're not, you want to know that too. But if they do give a diagnostic, talk to your teacher about the results. The other thing you can do is you can check your child's homework every day. Because you'll see how they're doing in each of their subjects. You can talk to your child's teacher once they get to know your child. We give diagnostics at Testing Mom, so we can do a diagnostic for you and tell you exactly where your child is at grade level and where they might be behind. I'll talk about that in a little while. Someone else will talk about it. But these are the things you can do to try to identify the learning challenges. And then once you actually identify the learning challenges, what do you do? Okay. So the first thing is that you've identified the challenge, and then you decide what you're going to work on. And I suggest that you start with one thing. And because what you're going to focus on is what's going to get handled, right? So if math is where the problems are, you start with math. Now, if they have a problem in a couple of areas, and many children do, you know, I would still start with the most important area and work on it for a little while, a couple of weeks, then add the next area that you want to work on. But I wouldn't be really working on, in a big way, more than 2 at a time. Because it may be too much. So just maybe really focus on 2 areas that need help and give them some very purposeful attention. And what you want to do is schedule time every day where your child can practice the skill. They can work with you, they can work with a tutor, you can use workbooks, you can use online learning programs to teach materials to your child. But you really want to schedule just a focused and regular time, either every day or several times a week, where your child can work on where they are challenged. And after a few weeks of work in the area, you want to go back and reevaluate. You want to make sure that they mastered what you worked on with them. And I always want to say this to parents: if you have a tutor who's coming into your home working with your child, just make sure you observe them working with your child, because you want to make sure. I know this from experience. My daughter had many learning disabilities, and so we had many tutors come and go, and some were good and some were not good and not doing what I wanted them to be doing. So that's why you have to observe them. And even if you are working with Testing Mom tutors online, I still suggest that you observe and make sure that that the teachers are working on what you want them to be working on, what you know your child needs to work on. We observe them ourselves, but you need to as well. So we just want to make sure that that your child is learning, okay? Because it's a lot of money to do this, and so you just want to make sure it's working. The other thing is to make sure that you build some fun into your child's schedule. And the reason for this is that even when especially when they're addressing some tough learning challenges, you really want them to do something that just clears their mind, where they have fun, they love it, it's what they love to do, because this will give them the energy they need to work on the things that are hard, and it just makes their life better. So just make sure that you're doing some fun things. The other thing I would say is start now. Don't wait. And the reason is that kids develop some very bad habits when they don't know how to do something well. So you don't want to give those bad habits time to grow too much. So the earlier you start, the better. And then when you're working with your child, or when they're going through this, building up their skill sets, just remember what we talked about today, which was the growth mindset. When you're talking to your child about how hard the work is that they're doing, they can master these skills if they work at them. You want to praise them for their effort and their persistence, and you want to celebrate their mistakes and their progress, because they're growing, they're learning, and that is what we want them to do. So now what I want to do is I just want to talk about a couple of tools we have on Testing Mom. I know many of you are actually members of Testing Mom, and if you're not a member, I hope you'll join. I really do. But yeah, most of you know us, of course, for test prep, and we do help with test prep. But something you may not know is that we also give you over 35 learning programs that your child can use. They're online learning programs that I selected myself for you to have. And you can use all of these programs. They are all academically focused, or most of them are academically focused, to work on the skills, the skill gaps that we're talking about here today. So, for example, if you have a young reader, first or second grader who's struggling with reading, Reading Kingdom, in my opinion, is the best reading program that's out there right now. And children can do it on their own. Once they get started, they can get into the program, and it moves them along. You don't have to oversee it. Many people in my own organization have used it with their children, and it really helps children advance in their reading levels. So this is a good one. Reflex Math, that's another one right here. If you have a child who's struggling with math facts, this is a game-like program where they play games, but while they're playing, they're mastering their math facts. So this is a great one. I don't have time to go over all of them. I'm just picking a few, but Woot Math, if your child has trouble with decimals or fractions, this whole site is a fun way to master fractions and decimals. And they can learn fun things too. We have keyboarding, we have coding, we have a lot of other things too. We have libraries in here. We have chess. There's a lot of fun things in here as well. So you get this with your membership, and it's free with your membership. So and the interesting thing is that it costs less to join Testing Mom for a year than it costs to buy just one of these programs if you wanted to subscribe yourself. And the reason is because we are an accredited program, so we're able to get these programs for our students the way a school gets programs for their students. And so it's a real benefit of membership. It's free with your membership, and it's a wonderful tool to help you work on what we're talking about today, which is the learning gaps. Another area where we can help you with some of these learning gaps is we have an after-school program, and we call them, and we have learning pods as well. So this is something that these you pay a little more for, but they're actually very reasonably priced. We have small groups that your child can join for academics if they do need some academic help. They can work on math, vocabulary, reading, writing, things like that. So that's possible. But they can also do fun things when they need that fun break, because we know they need that fun break. And we also have some wonderful fun teachers. Like we actually get, we've been working with some Lego masters from the television show, and the kids love learning from them. And even our vocabulary teacher. He is a teacher, but he's also a comedian. So the kids love vocabulary. Like those classes fill up because he's a very popular teacher. And I do want to get to your questions. I see that you have a lot. So, but before I do that, I do want to invite Michael and Ivan to speak a little bit, because I want them to tell you a little bit about our assessments. If you are interested in getting a assessment to see if your child is at grade level, or even to do one-to-one tutoring, we have that as well. So I invite them to speak, and then I'm going to talk about your questions, and let's answer them. Okay?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Karen. That was awesome. Like every presentation, this is the first time Karen's given this one because we've never really had this topic to give, right? Just due to unprecedented times and getting used to the new normal that's out there. So I want to tell you a little bit about our offer tonight. I'm going to pull up my screen here for a second. And Ivan, actually, some of you may have talked to Ivan. And so Ivan works with a lot of our parents and really making sure that what program that we offer is what we really customize our programs for. So we have various programs, and one of the things that you really want to make sure is when you start getting your child's report card later this year, you want to make sure they have the A+, right? We don't want any Fs. We don't like surprises. And during the poll tonight, many of you said that your school isn't even giving out grades. They're just basically saying your child passed or failed, which I'm sure almost all kids ended up passing just due to the current situation. But as you know, when the parent or when you hear your child is passing, does that mean my child has a 95 average? Does that mean my child has a 68 average? There's a big span of passing and failing. And one of the things that we've developed over the last few weeks is we've done these grade level assessments, and Karen has put those together, and they are based upon the ITBS test format, which is an achievement test, which is everything that your son or daughter needs to know for specific grades. And so during these assessments, it's a small group of around 3 to 4 kids in a group with a teacher, and they go through the math, they go through the reading, they go through the ELA, they go through the writing for the older kids, 3rd grade and up, to see where your child is at and to make sure your child is at or above grade level. And I can tell you firsthand from the parents that we have spoken to over the last few days, many parents are shocked that their son or daughter is so far behind. The good news is we have a program available to make sure that you get the information that you need to make an educated decision. And that's why we do these assessments. And Ivan has had years of experience working with parents on these assessments. And I want to have him tell you a story about why parents do these assessments and how it really lays the groundwork for a program that we can really help your child to succeed in. So Ivan, do you want to tell the parents a little bit about these assessments and what you've seen work in these assessments?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the assessments really give us some insight on your child's level of education. How much information has they been able to retain since they were last in school. So, I mean, especially right now, that's very, very important considering we pretty much lost education since practically of like March of last year. So it's been a gap of about 6 months. So it's really important now to really understand, where does your child stand, especially at this moment. So in those particular subjects, especially the primary ones like math and English, which from now all the way throughout college should be very, very strong. And then the idea is that, 5 to 6 months from now, you're going to probably take a state standardized test to get into the next grade level. So it is very important to understand where your child is at this moment so you can prepare for the next 5 or 6 months, because those tests will be administered after the new year. So. But with that being said, diagnostics are very, very important because it will break down the strengths, natural strengths and weaknesses, and also allow us to understand, how much information has been retained. so the tutors can understand, exactly which areas that they need to really go in and dive in and work in.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the skills, it's like working out and exercising, and I'm sure everyone can relate to that. Think if you have not gone to the gym since March of this year, okay, 6 months ago, and all of a sudden you show up today trying to do what you did 6 months ago, assuming that you were going daily, you wouldn't be able to do it. You would need time to catch up, get up to speed, and that's why we're really offering these grade level assessments. And what we're doing is for the grade level assessments, and what we'll be doing is, let's say your child is currently in third grade, they just started third grade. What we will do for grade level assessment is give them an assessment for the second grade to make sure they have mastered the second grade achievement levels. And that's given through these group test or test simulation that we do with our tutors and our teachers. And we've seen really interesting results. Many kids that we have seen, it does seem that the ELA and reading comprehension has really, really negatively impacted many kids. Math as well, but we just keep seeing it more so in the reading comprehension, ELA portion, and writing portion for the older kids. And so what we're offering tonight is for you to sign up for a assessment, and for third grade and above, and we do these all the way through sixth grade, it's 149, and for K through second, it's 99. And the reason there's a price difference is because we don't do a full writing assessment for the younger kids. We just start that in for the kids who are in third grade. So we're going to be sending you this link, and we're also going to be putting it in the chat here in just a moment. And also, as an extra bonus, if you sign up for these grade level assessments by midnight tonight, your child will get to attend one of our 2-day camps. They'll either get to attend a Lego camp, which is on a Saturday and Sunday in the afternoon, or a coding camp, which is also on a Saturday and Sunday, October 3rd and 4th. And this really helps your son or daughter develop those STEM skills that we all hear about with Lego and coding. And the Lego camp is going to be taught by Corey, and Corey was on the hit show Lego Masters, so he will be teaching that particular camp. And then Rich, who's one of our awesome coding instructors, he's going to be teaching Scratch Coding, which is a visual coding platform that kids can really interact, and they can actually start coding their first lesson. It's awesome. And so we're offering this tonight. You pick either or. You'll either get the Lego camp or the coding camp for your son or daughter. And I can tell you both of these teachers get rave reviews. If you're a fan of the TV show Lego Masters like myself, you can go online and look at Corey, just type Corey Lego Masters. He will actually be teaching the Lego camp. And Rich, who is an awesome instructor who has all of his curriculum from MIT, will be teaching the coding camp. And you must sign up for these assessments tonight, and we're going to be putting the link into the chat box, and we'll also be emailing it. So now I'm going to turn it over to Karen, and she is going to start doing some Q&A.
All right, so here we are. Okay, Q&A. So let me, I'll share my screen also just for my last slide if you wanted to also get some additional information there. Okay, so I'm going to go through your questions, and let me find, I have to also find, did everybody put the questions in the Q&A box? I thought I saw some also in the chat. So let me open the chat. Oh, good. Okay, I can look at both. All right, so there we are. Okay, so here, so what if my kid is distracted too easily and says the topics are too low? I'm assuming you're saying school, that they find school they're distracted easily and say the topics are too easy for them. I guess I would be questioning a little bit. Again, I guess I'd want to know a little bit more here. Like, are you watching them taking their classes on Zoom, or are they in school? If they're in school and they're telling you that the topics are too easy for them, I would probably talk to the teachers, try to see what's going on. If they say that what they're learning is too easy for them, this would be, you might want to make sure they've been assessed, and see if maybe they belong in a gifted class, or, you know, a more high level class. So there's a lot of things you can do. You might want to talk to Ivan, I think, about that, and give him a little bit more detail. Let me move that out of the way. Okay, so my child's school gives beginning of the year assessments, and every 6 weeks at the end of the cycle, but they never share these results with parents. Not even the end of year results. I don't understand that. I don't know. It seems to me if you could go to your teacher and say, I want you to sit down with me and tell me how my child is doing. If you asked for that, or went to the principal and said you would like to know how your child is doing, I would push to find out. If they're doing the assessment, I would push to sit down with somebody to get the results. But I'm a pushy parent, but I would do that. So that's me. And I recommend you might want to try it and see if they will do it for you. And then you're saying that they get, you know, satisfactory or E or S, because in first grade, second grade gets letter grades. But her Spanish teacher told us she was recommending her for G&T. What does this mean as far as learning gaps, now learning remotely with all this in mind during the pandemic? Well, GT, it may be different. Every school district has their own gifted and talented programs. So you want to ask your school, well, what is the GT program? How do we qualify for it? Is it just you recommend us and we're in, or do we have to be tested? You know, usually they will give the child a test to get them in. And sometimes, you know, you're gonna have to find out, well, what does it mean because of the pandemic and online classes? Does it mean she'll go to a different online class than her regular class, or maybe a couple of hours a week, a different class? So you want to ask the school what does this entail? But absolutely, if they want to recommend her for G&T, I would encourage that. I would encourage you to go down that path, because usually it means extra learning opportunities. So I would go down that path for sure. Does it mean she doesn't have any learning gaps? No, it doesn't mean that. You never know where the learning gaps might be unless you do an assessment, you know, or look at her results. You won't know that, which is why I'm saying if they have results and if they're doing them, especially this year, I would definitely want to see them, and I would ask. And I think this year you can ask, especially because, you know, so many kids have been out of school, and as a parent, I think you can say, I want to know the results. If they don't tell you, do one of our learning assessments and just see, is your child at grade level or not? Okay, my family and I moved to a new town and a new school district for this new school year. I have a first and an eighth and a ninth grader. They're doing virtual learning. My concern is that at this new school, what they're being taught now was everything they learned last year. Oh dear. It's very frustrating because they are bored and they're not being challenged or learning anything new. What advice do you have in a situation like this for a student? Well, you know, one thing I would say is I would talk to the teachers first about, is your child in the right grade? I would want to know, based on this school district, what is the curriculum for the year? Ask them to walk you through each grade's curriculum. If it is everything they learned last year and you are certain that they know it, you can talk to them about potentially moving them up to the next grade. There's a lot to consider when you look at moving a child to the next grade. So I would do some research on all the things to consider when considering skipping a grade. But if literally they have learned everything that this school is teaching, you don't want them to spend a year being bored. It would make sense potentially to move them ahead. So I would first really try to verify that the whole curriculum is what they've learned. It might be now they're just reviewing some things, and so now your kids are bored, but they're going to get to other material. But if that's not the case, that's when you start thinking, well, should they be in a different class? And you might want to talk to the teachers, and or there might be a gifted specialist if there's a gifted opportunity in the school, or you could talk to the principal as well, that you think your kids may not be in the right grade given where they were last year in the school they were. But again, this is something where you're going to have to step in. Will the slides be emailed to us? We will, a couple of things. You can go to testingmom.com/classes, and it will be on that page. So it's just testingmom.com/classes. You can see this presentation and the slides there. And in about a day or so, it'll be up. So that's the easiest. Or if you go on our website, on our dashboard, we'll have a link to these presentations and questions.
Okay, Karen, it's also on Facebook right now.
And it's on Facebook right now, on our Facebook page. Good. Okay, so how do I improve the focus of my third grader? The focus. There's a lot of things you can do to work on focus. One of the things we actually have something, hold on, it's called, we have these flashcards. Sorry, I'm standing up here for a minute. That are like, even though your child is in third grade, what I would tell you is these are for first grade, but they're really hard for kids who have trouble with focus. Okay, these are following directions flashcards, where they're fun, but kids have to really listen when you ask them questions about what's on the flashcards. So I'll just give you a quick. This is a nice tool for building up focus and paying attention. Let me just pull out a question. Hold on. Okay. So for example, you might have a card, something like this, and you'd ask them, okay, if you start at the bottom right corner, go up 4 boxes, and then go left 2 boxes, where will you end up? So that's just an example of a question. But it's like they have to sit and listen, focus, remember, and then point to the answer. And then most of the questions are actually more fun than that one. That one has just a big grid on it, but a lot of them have really fun artwork with these fun space babies where they have to literally distinguish between, point to the box that has the smallest space baby in the middle of the row and the space baby with spiked hair first. So they have to listen, remember, and really focus. So this is really good for training focus skills. That's one tool that I would recommend. Another tool that I recommend for focus is we have a sister site that is called GoGoBrain, just gogobrain.com. Go over there. I think it's like $5 a month. But it's all about these cognitive skills like focus, listening, remembering. And it's a game-oriented site, but it works on all of those cognitive and executive function skills. So I wanted to recommend that to you as well. How do you make your child do something they don't like? Well, boy, that's a hard one. But all of our kids have to, it depends, I suppose, on what you're talking about. But let's say, maybe it's a subject that they don't like in school. That typically is what parents are talking about. And I think often kids don't like things they're not good at. So let's say your child isn't good at math, and yet they need to practice their math because this is something that's really hard for them. Well, again, I recommend talking about the growth mindset. I recommend maybe when you start working on their math skills, you take a step back and you work on easier skills first, so you give them confidence. There are ways to make learning fun. We do that. Our tutors do that very, very well. And keep it fun and active and engaging. You can play math games. So there are ways to make learning fun, but you do have to work at it. But also remember, just that's, like I said, like the little boy we worked with this year, the fifth grader who had so many math learning gaps and hated math, but now loves it because he's good at it. So a lot of it has to do with how good your child is at something. And so by helping them become better, they will like it more. Okay. Oh, somebody wanted to see slides 12. Oh, this one. This slide again. This slide again. And like I said, you can get this tomorrow. You'll be able to get this at testingmom.com/classes or on our Facebook page as well. So if you want to take a screenshot, you can. Take this one and this one. Oh, my son is struggling with memorizing math facts. We've been working at it for a long time using different games and testing, Mom. Good, but we're not making, you're not making big progress. Do you have some suggestions? Well, you know, I would say even reflex math, he's not learning it from reflex math. What I would do is, I would probably, I think I would maybe do I would do an assessment, just make sure that he really understands what's behind the math. I just make sure, I don't know what grade, oh, he's in 6th grade. Okay, so I would step back a bit and I would just really make sure that he's got the fundamentals of the things he's trying to memorize, that those are intact. I would check that out first. And it could be that he just has trouble with his working memory, and it may be that you just have to work on working memory. And I actually have, I'm going to pull these out. I have some flashcards for working memory, and you know what? They're for younger kids, but it doesn't even matter. If a child is having memory issues, it would be good to work on these kinds of things. And these questions do get very hard. There's both visual memory and verbal memory. And it sounds like, well, if he's just having trouble memorizing and remembering, then you know, he needs to work on his working memory skills. So these are good, even though they're easy, and it's a huge step back for a 6th grader. But I promise you, if he does have memory issues, he'll find these challenging. So this would be a good thing to do. Also, our Go-Go Brain that I was telling you about has games for working memory as well. So you could try those out. That's another one. Where do you get the apps I showed you on the website? I'll show you really fast. And I realize I'm going over a few minutes, so I'm going to hurry. Just go to the Testing Mom website. Go to the Testing Mom website, go to Skill Building Academy here, all programs, and this is where you see all of these programs on our website. And the ones at the top, you can just get right into and start using right away. You don't need any kind of special login. The ones on the bottom do need a special login. So what you do is you click it and you request a login, and they'll give you the access. And the reason that you need the login is it saves where you are. It knows what your child has done, so it doesn't make them start over each time. And these are more progressive programs, so they're right here and they're part of your program. So that's where you find them. And let's see. Oh, my school uses iReady as a diagnostic assessment. Do I think that is sufficient? That's a good one. So yes, if they use iReady, take a look at how your child did with iReady. You know, if you see that there are some areas where they need to fill in some gaps, reach out to Ivan and talk to him, and see if you can maybe get a little bit of tutoring just in those areas where the skill gaps were identified. But you need to get the results, the latest results. Which test do you use to assess gaps for elementary students? We're using materials that are modeled after the ITBS, the Iowa test in math and English language arts. And then for test assessment, after the fee is done for teaching the student, how much is the fee? We need to get with Ivan on that, but it depends whether your child does a small class to fill gaps, because we do have some small classes going, or one-to-one tutoring, and we have different packages at different rates. So there you go. Do you have a game that you like to increase reading comprehension? We have a lot of reading comprehension materials on our website, yes. So we have a lot of reading comprehension questions. The other thing we have, it depends what grade your child is in, but one of my favorites is, hold on, Core Clicks right here. This is great for reading comprehension. So I would do this. Big Universe also has literacy and reading comprehension. And if they're very young, let's see, do I have it? Bookflix has books that they read to the kids and then questions afterwards. And so does Arbordale Publishing. So these are good as well. If you're interested in the flashcards for attention, there's two sets. There's following directions, and you can get them on Amazon. And the first set is literally the kindergarten set. But again, if you have attention problems and focus problems, you might even go back to the easiest set we have and start there, make sure that your child is good at it, and then go to, these are hard. Even I have trouble sometimes with these, but that's okay. My memory's not the best. Anyway, okay, I have a child with dyslexia. What advice do you have for helping him with COVID? What I would say is if you are if you kind of know how to work with him, just because I'm assuming you've probably had a reading specialist work with him before, and so I would keep working with him on his reading skills. Depending on what grade he is in, I would say that, let's see, where is my Reading Kingdom? Reading Kingdom, if he's young, is a fabulous program even for kids who have dyslexia, that he could work on that if he's young. And if he's older, I'm hoping that they're giving you maybe a reading specialist to work with one-on-one at your school, maybe through an IEP. I would suggest that. We also have a lot of reading materials, and as long as you're a member, you can reach out to us and ask us where are your reading materials, so I can work on reading comprehension, and we'll just lay it all out for you and tell you. We have plenty. Oh, she's in 4th grade. Okay, thanks. Okay, you can still try Reading Kingdom. Give it a try. If she's really struggling with her reading, it goes through 4th grade. It assesses where they are to start, and then it puts them, gives them materials based on what they can do and where they're strong and where they're not strong. And so try it and see. If it doesn't work for you, let me know, because I can recommend some other things as well. Okay. I'm going to stop because we're 10 minutes over, and I apologize for that. But what I guess the way I want to leave you guys, you can, always ask us questions. Just write to us at help@testingmom.com. A week from today, we're going to be doing a webinar on the SCAT test and the NUMATS test, these are some for gifted programs, for national gifted programs. We'll send that out to you. And I know someone was asking about that. But I just want to say, remember the hold on, this is where I want, remember the growth mindset. This is what I'm hoping you guys will all start, really working on imparting to your child, because to me, this is so important, because it gives the child the knowledge that no matter how hard things are, whether it's at school, whether it's, just in my life or my hobby, my passion, whatever, I can work at it, I can get better, and I can do it. It just gives them so much flexibility, both in school and in life. So I just want to leave you with that. And Michael, did you want to say anything as well?
Yeah, just make sure you sign up tonight so you'll get that
yeah.
special offer of the free 2-day Lego camp or the coding camp, both happening different weekends in October. And we're really excited about those. And also, I know some of you may already know this, but we are having our second speed spelling bee. It starts in October. So if you're interested in entering your child in that, we have a juniors division, which is ages 6 to 8, and then we have the senior division, which is ages 9 to, I think, 14 or 15. And so we're real excited about that. We did one in May of this year, and it was a huge success. So if you're interested in learning about the speed spelling bee, just email us at help@testingmom.com. We can send you all the information. There is a $25 entry fee, and there are awesome prizes, and you can get a big trophy. Your son or daughter can be eligible, if they're the winner, to get it's about a 3.5 foot tall trophy if they win. It's gigantic. It's taller than Karen. So it's, but we have really, ever since COVID and all of that, Karen and I had to really rethink our business and really come up with new things and new programs that really fit with what was going on. And so we really appreciate, many of you have done our learning pods, which are phenomenal. And we also have our after school programs all online. And so we're really, really excited about kind of heading in this new direction as a company, because we're here to support you and your families during this time. But I want to thank everyone again, and please sign up. These assessments will fill up, and we're doing them over the next 2 weeks. So I'll let you wrap it up, Karen.
Well, that's it. We love hearing from you guys, and I know if I didn't get your question answered, just write to us at help@testingmom.com, and we'll get your questions answered if you have them. And join our site, and I hope you'll participate in all the different fun activities we're doing. And we do webinars every week. We're about all kinds of subjects of interest to parents, and so just join us. We love our parents, we love our families, and we love working with all of you. So just thanks for coming tonight too. So
all right, bye-bye everybody.
Good night.